Determination letter hit the desk with a sharp slap. Amara Johnson's hands trembled as she stared at the numbers. 2 weeks' pay, $600. 3 months of work ending in a single brutal moment. Sign it. Victor Castellano's voice was ice. He didn't look at her, just pushed a pen across his mahogany desk like she was a problem he needed to erase before lunch. Amara's throat tightened. Mr. Castellano, please. I have 2 children. I was only 5 minutes late because... I don't care. His eyes finally met hers, and for a moment, Amara saw something flicker there. Something almost human before it vanished behind cold professionalism. Do you understand what this company represents? She opened her mouth to respond, but he continued, his gaze roaming over her in a way that made her skin prickle with humiliation. Perfection. Excellence. When clients walk through those doors, they see success. He leaned back, studying her cleaning uniform, her worn shoes, her makeup-free face. You're plain, Miss Johnson. Unremarkable. You don't fit the image of Chun Enterprises. Frankly, I made a mistake hiring you. The words cut deeper than any knife. Not because they were true, but because of the way he said them, clinical, detached, like her existence was an error in his perfectly calculated world. But there was something else. Something in the way his jaw tightened when she looked directly at him. The way he looked away first. Amara signed the paper, her vision blurring with tears she refused to let fall. Not in front of him. Never in front of him. As security escorted her out, past the gleaming lobby where beautiful people in expensive suits averted their eyes, Amara made a silent vow. She would make Victor Castellano regret this day. Not just professionally, personally, because buried beneath her humiliation was something she'd never admit to anyone. For 3 months, she'd watched him from a distance. Noticed how he stayed late when everyone else went home. How he rubbed his temples when he thought no one was looking. How he was always alone despite being surrounded by people. She'd almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Now, as Thomas the security guard pressed a business card for night school into her hand, Amara channeled every complicated emotion into something useful. Rage. Determination, and something darker she couldn't quite name. Don't let him win, Thomas whispered. She wouldn't, but winning wasn't enough anymore. That night, sitting at her kitchen table while her children slept, Amara didn't just enroll in business school. She began studying Victor Castellano himself, his patterns, his weaknesses, his life. She learned he'd built his empire from nothing after his father's company collapsed, that he'd been engaged once, 7 years ago, to a woman who'd left him at the altar when a wealthier man came along. That he worked 16-hour days and lived alone in a penthouse that overlooked the city. She learned that Victor Castellano trusted no one because everyone in his life had proven untrustworthy. And she decided that 12 years from now, she would become the exception. Year 1 was survival. Amara juggled night janitorial work, classes, and raising 2 kids on 4 hours of sleep. But every time exhaustion threatened to break her, she thought about Victor's face. That cold dismissal. That flicker of something beneath it. Year 2, she got a receptionist job at a real estate firm. Her boss, Patricia, noticed her hunger. You're not doing this just for money, Patricia observed one day. There's someone you're trying to prove wrong. Amara smiled tightly. Something like that. Let me guess. A man. The worst kind. The kind who doesn't know he's the villain in someone else's story. Patricia laughed. Those are the most satisfying ones to defeat. But remember, the best revenge isn't just success. It's making them fall for you right before you break their heart. The words planted a seed. A dangerous, intoxicating seed. Year 3 through 5, Amara transformed. Not just professionally, but personally. She learned to walk into rooms with confidence. To style her natural hair in ways that made heads turn. To dress like she belonged in boardrooms. To speak with authority that made people listen. She dated occasionally, but no one held her interest. They were all too easy to read, too simple to predict. None of them challenged her the way her ghost did. The memory of Victor Castellano's ice-blue eyes watching her sign away her dignity. Year 6. She moved to Sterling Properties and began handling high-end commercial deals. She started seeing Victor at industry events. He never recognized her. Why would he? She'd been invisible to him. But she watched him. Noticed how he'd gone through 2 more failed relationships. How the lines around his eyes had deepened. How he was always alone at these events despite being surrounded by people vying for his attention. Year 7, at a real estate gala, they were seated at the same table by pure chance. Amara wore black silk that cost more than her old monthly salary. Her hair was styled elegantly. Her makeup subtle but transformative. She was unrecognizable from the woman he'd fired. Victor was seated beside her, and when he glanced her way, his expression shifted. Not recognition, interest. The kind of interest that made her heart race with something between triumph and danger. Victor Castellano, he introduced himself, extending his hand. I know who you are. Amara shook it, holding his gaze just a moment too long. Amara Johnson. Sterling Properties. Johnson, he repeated, searching her face. Have we met before? I have one of those faces, she said smoothly. Easy to forget. Something flickered in his eyes. I don't think I'd forget you. The irony almost made her laugh. Instead, she smiled. That's kind of you to say, Mr. Castellano. Victor, please. He shifted in his chair, giving her his full attention in a way that felt intoxicating and infuriating. You're with Sterling? How long have you been in commercial real estate? Long enough to know that Chun Enterprises has been making some interesting moves in the Miami market. His eyebrows raised. You follow my company? I follow profitable companies. Though I'm not sure Miami qualifies as profitable right now. The challenge in her voice made him smile, actually smile. Transformed his face, made him look younger, almost vulnerable. Direct. I like that. He leaned closer, and Amara caught the scent of expensive cologne. Most people in this room are too busy kissing up to give honest opinions. I'm not most people. I'm beginning to see that. They talked throughout dinner. About real estate, about market trends, about everything except the truth humming between them. Victor was sharp, quick-witted, and surprisingly self-deprecating about his Miami investments. You're going to lose money there, Amara told him over dessert. The market's oversaturated and your timing is off. You sound confident. I am. Then perhaps you'd be willing to consult on the project? I'd value a fresh perspective. This was it. The opening she'd been working toward for 7 years. Amara sipped her wine slowly. Let him wait. I'll think about it, she finally said. Victor pulled out his card, wrote his personal cell number on the back. Don't think too long. I have a feeling you and I could do interesting things together. The double meaning wasn't lost on either of them. If you're hooked on this enemies to lovers karma romance, hit that subscribe button because this story is about to get so much more complicated. And you're not going to want to miss what happens when Victor finds out exactly who Amara is. Over the next year, Amara became Victor's unofficial consultant. They met for coffee, for lunch, for late-night strategy sessions in his office. She gave him advice that saved his Miami investments. He listened to her in a way he seemed to listen to no one else. And slowly, carefully, she watched him fall. It started with respect. Victor began asking her opinion on deals outside of Miami. Then he started inviting her to meetings with his executive team. Then to dinner, just the two of them, ostensibly to discuss business. You're different from anyone I've worked with, he told her one evening over wine at an upscale restaurant. The city lights glittered through the windows behind him. You tell me the truth even when it's not what I want to hear. Would you prefer I lie? Amara asked. God, no. He leaned back, studying her with those ice-blue eyes that no longer looked quite so cold. I spent years surrounded by yes-men and people who wanted something from me. You're the first person who seems to just see me. The irony was exquisite. He thought she saw him, but he still couldn't see her. Maybe you weren't letting people see you, Amara said carefully. Victor was quiet for a moment. My father taught me that trust is a liability. Everyone has an angle. Everyone wants something. That sounds lonely. It is. His honesty surprised them both. He cleared his throat, shifted gears. Tell me about you. You never talk about yourself. Because my story is one you don't want to hear, Amara thought. Instead she said, I'm a single mother, 2 kids. I built everything I have from scratch. That's all that matters. How do you do it? The work, the kids, and still have time for? He gestured between them, leaving the sentence unfinished. For difficult clients who don't take no for an answer? Amara smiled. I was going to say for someone like me. The weight of those words hung between them. Someone like him. Someone broken and brilliant and dangerous to care about. I make time for things that challenge me, Amara said. And I challenge you? Every single day. Victor reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers but not quite touching. I know this started as business, but I need you to know it stopped being just business months ago. For me, at least. Amara's heart hammered against her ribs. This was the moment. The perfect setup. She could break him right now, tell him who she really was, watch the realization destroy him. But something stopped her. Maybe the way he looked at her like she was something precious. Maybe the way her traitorous heart skipped when he smiled. Maybe the way 12 years of rage had complicated into something she didn't have a name for. It stopped being just business for me too, she heard herself say. But Victor, there are things about me you don't know. Things that might change how you feel. Everyone has a past, Amara. I don't care about yours. You should. Why? Did you commit corporate espionage? Embezzle funds? Kill someone? He was joking, trying to lighten the mood. No. But I worked as a cleaner once. Made $12 an hour. Raised my kids alone in a 1-bedroom apartment while going to night school. She watched his face carefully. Would that change how you see me? Victor's expression softened. It would make me respect you more. Building what you have from that takes strength most people don't possess. He still didn't understand. Didn't remember. The woman he'd fired didn't exist in his memory at all. Amara felt something crack inside her chest. Not her resolve, something else. Something dangerous. I should go, she said abruptly. My kids. Stay. Victor's hand finally closed over hers. Please. I'm not good at this. At letting people in. But with you, it feels different. It feels possible. And that's when Amara realized she'd made a terrible miscalculation. She'd spent 12 years preparing to destroy Victor Castellano. She'd never prepared for the possibility that she might actually fall for him. Year 9 changed everything. Amara was recruited by Apex Realty Group as senior vice president. The promotion meant less time for consulting with Victor, which should have made things easier. Instead, it made them desperate. Victor called her late at night, showed up at her office with coffee, found excuses to be at the same industry events. And Amara, despite every logical part of her brain screaming warnings, found herself saying yes. Yes to dinner. Yes to late-night phone calls. Yes to weekends at his lake house where they talked about everything except the past. Yes to the way he looked at her like she was the only real thing in his constructed world. I'm in love with you, Victor told her one night on his penthouse balcony. The city sprawled beneath them. A million lights reflecting a million lives. I know it's vast. I know I'm not easy. But you make me want to be better. You make me believe I could be. Amara's carefully constructed walls crumbled. Victor. You don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. But she did say it back. Because somewhere between planning his destruction and learning who he really was, Amara had fallen in love with the man he'd become. Or maybe the man he'd always been beneath the armor. I love you too, she whispered. But there's something I need to tell you. Something that might change everything. Nothing could change how I feel about you. 12 years ago, you fired someone from Chun Enterprises. Cleaner. You told her she was plain and unremarkable. Do you remember? Victor's face went blank, then confused. Amara, I fired a lot of people over the years. I'm not proud of all the decisions I made when I was younger. I was ruthless, colder than I needed to be. But I don't. Her name was Amara Johnson. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He stepped back, his face draining of color. No, that's not. You're not. I am. Amara's voice was steady even as her heart shattered. I'm the woman you fired for being too plain to fit your aesthetic. The woman you escorted out with a cardboard box and $600. Victor's hands shook. Oh my God. Amara, how did I not? Why didn't you tell me? Because I spent 12 years planning to destroy you for what you did to me. And then I fell in love with you instead. The silence between them was devastating. So what now? Victor finally asked, his voice rough. Was any of it real? Or was I just your revenge plot? It was real. Tears finally spilled down Amara's cheeks. That's the problem. It was all real. I came here tonight to tell you the truth, because I can't keep lying to the man I love. You loved me enough to be honest, Victor said slowly. But not enough to tell me before I fell for you. Before I gave you everything. I know. And you have every right to hate me. I don't hate you. He laughed. But it was broken. I hate myself. For being the kind of man who would fire someone for something so shallow. For not seeing you then. For being so blind that you could come back into my life and I didn't even recognize the woman whose life I destroyed. You didn't destroy my life. You forced me to rebuild it. And I built something stronger. Victor walked to the balcony edge, gripping the railing. Did you mean it? When you said you loved me? Every word. Then what do we do now? Amara joined him at the railing, close but not touching. I don't know. I'm not asking for forgiveness. What you did was wrong, Victor. The way you treated me, the way you probably treated others, that was wrong. I know. His voice cracked. I've changed, Amara. Or at least I thought I had. But maybe I'm still the same man who was so focused on image that I couldn't see value. Maybe that's why my relationships always failed. Why I've always been alone. You're not alone anymore. Not if you don't want to be. He turned to her finally, and his eyes were wet. How can you still? After what I did. Because people change. Because you're not that man anymore, even if you used to be. Because I've spent 12 years hating a ghost, and I don't want to hate you. I want to love the man standing in front of me. Victor pulled her into his arms, and they stood there on the balcony. Two broken people trying to figure out if love could survive the weight of the past. I'm sorry, he whispered into her hair. For every careless word, every cruel decision, every person I hurt because I was too damaged to know better. I'm sorry it took losing everything to learn how to be human. You haven't lost everything yet. Haven't I? The woman I love spent 12 years preparing to destroy me. That's karma, Amara. That's what I deserve. Maybe. She pulled back to look at him. Or maybe karma is more complicated than that. Maybe it's not about destruction. Maybe it's about transformation. Year 10 brought unexpected challenges. News of their relationship spread through industry circles, and with it came whispers. People who'd known Amara's history. People who put pieces together. Victor's board questioned whether their relationship was a conflict of interest. Apex's leadership worried about reputation. And then Chun Enterprises started showing cracks. Bad investments, lawsuits, the same patterns that had plagued Victor before Amara came back into his life. I'm dragging you down, Victor said one night after a particularly brutal board meeting. My company is failing. My reputation is tanking. And now you're getting caught in the crossfire. Then let me help you fix it. How? By destroying what I built? By watching you buy my company for pennies like I deserve? By building something new together? Something that matters more than ego or revenge or proving we're better than our worst moments. Victor looked at her like she was speaking a foreign language. You're really willing to save me? After everything? I'm not saving you. I'm choosing you. There's a difference. But the universe had other plans. Chun Enterprises' problems accelerated. Within months, it was clear the company needed to sell or face bankruptcy. And Apex, with Amara leading acquisitions, was the logical buyer. The day of the final negotiation, Amara sat across from Victor in the same conference room where she'd planned to destroy him years ago. But everything was different now. The papers that would transfer his company to hers sat between them like a barrier. 180 million, Amara said quietly. It's fair given your current liabilities. Victor nodded, his face unreadable. And us? What happens to us when you own everything I built? That depends. Do you think I'm doing this to hurt you? I think you're doing your job, and I think part of you still wants revenge, even if you don't admit it. Amara stood, walked around the table, and took his face in her hands. I wanted revenge. For 12 years I wanted it more than anything. But you know what I want more? I want you. Not broken. Not humiliated. Not destroyed. Just you exactly as you are. How do I know that's true? Because I'm going to prove it. She pulled out a second set of papers. Apex will acquire Chun Enterprises for 180 million. But I'm proposing something different. A merger, not a takeover. Chun Enterprises becomes a subsidiary of Apex with full autonomy. And you stay on as CEO. Victor stared at the papers. Why would you do that? Because you're not your worst decision. You're every decision you made after it. Every person you've helped. Every employee you've treated fairly. Every time you've chosen to be better than you were. That's who you are now. You're giving me a second chance. We're giving each other a second chance. Both of us made mistakes, Victor. I kept secrets. You were cruel. But we're not those people anymore. He signed the papers with shaking hands. And when he looked up, his eyes were filled with something Amara had never seen before, hope. Year 11 was rebuilding. Victor and Amara merged their professional lives, their personal lives, their futures. Chun Enterprises stabilized under new management principles that valued people over aesthetics. Apex grew stronger with Chen's properties in their portfolio. They faced scrutiny. Articles questioned whether their relationship was ethical. Competitors whispered about conflicts of interest. But they weathered it together. One evening, a year after the merger, Victor took Amara back to the building where he'd fired her. They stood in the lobby where security had walked her out with a cardboard box. I want to tell you something, Victor said. That day when I fired you, something happened that I never told anyone. After you left, I went back to my office and I couldn't work. I kept seeing your face, the way you looked at me like I was a monster. And I had this thought, what if she was right? What if I was? Amara stayed quiet, letting him finish. I buried it, told myself I was just being practical. But that moment stuck with me. It haunted me for years. And when you came back into my life, even before I knew who you were, I felt like I'd been given a chance to be different. Better. I just didn't know how desperately I needed that chance. Victor, let me finish. He dropped to one knee, and Amara's breath caught. I was cruel to you when you were vulnerable. I judged you when I should have seen you. I broke something that day that took 12 years to heal. I can't undo that. But I can promise you that for the rest of my life, I will spend every day proving that people can change. That love is stronger than revenge. That karma isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's about redemption. He pulled out a ring that caught the light from the same chandeliers that had witnessed Amara's humiliation 12 years ago. Marry me, not because you've forgiven me, but because we've both become people worth forgiving. Marry me and let's build something beautiful out of the worst thing I ever did. Amara looked at the ring, at Victor, at the lobby that had been the site of her greatest shame and was now offering her greatest joy. Yes, she said, but on one condition. Anything. We hire more single mothers. More people who just need a chance. More people who don't fit the aesthetic but have the heart. We make this company what it should have been 12 years ago. Victor stood, slipped the ring on her finger. Deal. They kissed in that lobby while security guards who remembered Amara from years ago pretended not to cry. The wedding was small, intimate, filled with people who'd witnessed both of their transformations. Amara's daughter Maya gave her away. Victor's best man was Thomas, the security guard who'd given Amara that business card 12 years ago. During their vows, Victor spoke directly to the woman he'd wronged. I can't undo the past. I can't give you back those 12 years of struggle. But I can promise you 12 times 12 years of love. I can promise to see you every day, really see you, the way I should have from the beginning. I can promise that your pain wasn't meaningless. It built something extraordinary. You are extraordinary. And I will spend my life making sure you know it. Amara's vows were simpler. You hurt me. I wanted to hurt you back. But somewhere between revenge and redemption, I learned that the opposite of hate isn't love. It's understanding. I understand you now. The fear that made you cruel, the loneliness that made you cold, the damage that made you defensive. And I love you not despite those things, but because of how hard you've worked to heal them. We're both broken in different ways. But maybe broken people fit together better than whole ones ever could. If this story of complicated love, second chances, and karma turning into something beautiful moved you, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me. Do you believe people can truly change? Or is it just a beautiful lie we tell ourselves? Like this video if you think love can survive even the worst beginnings. Because this channel is all about proving that the best endings come from the darkest beginnings. Years later, Amara and Victor stood on the same penthouse balcony where she'd revealed her identity. Do you ever regret it? Victor asked, his arm around her waist. Choosing love over revenge? Amara thought about it. About the 12 years of struggle, the plan she'd abandoned, the destruction she'd chosen not to cause. No, because revenge would have been one moment of satisfaction. This is a lifetime of it. You know what the ironic thing is? Victor pulled her closer. You did get your revenge. You made me fall so completely in love with you that losing you would destroy me more than any business deal ever could. You made yourself irreplaceable. That's the ultimate power. That's not revenge. That's marriage. They laughed, and it was the sound of two people who'd survived their worst selves and come out stronger. Their company thrived. Chinapex Enterprises became known not just for its properties but for its culture. For giving chances to people others overlooked. For measuring worth by character instead of aesthetics. Amara never removed that framed termination letter from her office. But next to it she added their wedding photo. A reminder that endings are just beginnings in disguise. That the worst thing that ever happened to you might be the push you needed to become who you were meant to be. And sometimes, just sometimes, the person who broke you can be the one who helps you rebuild. Not because they're your savior, but because they're willing to do the work alongside you. Because they've learned that true strength isn't power over others. It's the courage to say I was wrong and mean it. Victor learned to value people for who they are. Amara learned that revenge is heavy, but love is liberating. Together, they learned that karma doesn't always look like punishment. Sometimes it looks like a second chance neither of you expected to get. Sometimes it looks like love. Drop a comment and tell me about your own complicated love story. The one where you weren't sure if you should walk away or stay. The one where someone hurt you but then showed you who they could become. Subscribe for more stories where karma gets complicated and love wins anyway. Because life isn't black and white. It's messy and beautiful, and sometimes the villain becomes the hero of your story. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next one.